Looking forward at 2023, if you are considering selling your house, there are a number of things you really need to be aware of just to give you a lot of good contextual knowledge about what environment it is that you are stepping into and how that is different from what we've seen in the past couple of years. My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska with Keller Williams, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And this topic is, I'm sure it's going to be something that's going to absorb a lot of my time moving forward here, is kind of explaining what it is we can expect moving forward. The first thing I would tell you, if you are a seller in 2023, it just makes sense for you to move. This is the time to do it. Good time to do it. This is still a strong seller's market. There are a couple things you need to know. Number one, buyers are going to be stressed. Probably more so than they were back in 2021, 2020. And the reason for that is that they are seeing all these headlines talking about, oh, the market's about to collapse. Oh, the interest rates are, way, way higher than they should be. All this stuff that's not really taken the big historical perspective into consideration. And people really aren't taking a step back to kind of understand where they are in the market. It's not, I've talked about this in other videos. I theorize a collapse, a downturn is not particularly likely just because we do have such a compressed inventory. Again, I could be wrong, but while the inventory remains as low as it is, I'm really not expecting to see this collapse in the market. And interest rates, yes, they're going up, but we were used to like that 2.5 interest rate for a couple of years. That was not normal. And unfortunately, I think a lot of buyers got into the mindset where that was normal. This is their first time for a lot of them to buy a house, keep in mind. And unfortunately, they just kind of thought that was normal. And a lot of people are kind of getting that cold dose of reality, cold glass of water thrown in their face. So they're going to be stressed. They're going to see a lot of headlines because if it bleeds, it leads. And if it's something negative, then, it's definitely going to lead. So they're going to see tons of headlines, and that's just something you need to be aware of as a seller. The second thing you need to be aware of is everything's getting more expensive, as I'm sure you're perfectly aware. But what that does is that does make the down payment that they would normally have more compressed. So the rent is going up, interest rates are going up, and the money that most of these folks would have for a down payment starting to dwindle away just because there's less of it to go around. You do see some salaries going up, but by and large, it just gets eaten up with the increased cost of living. Let's take a break real quick. If you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you do know that I focus primarily on the South Central Alaska area. And while that's going to remain the case moving forward, we are actually going to be partnering with our colleagues across the entire state to bring you market updates for what's going on inside the markets of each one of the big market centers here in the state of Alaska, looking at Fairbanks, Kenai, Homer, Kodiak, and Juneau/the Southeast area. So this is going to be a very exciting project called the Trailblazer Project. I've not seen this done in any other state before, where we are bringing you all the market updates for the entire state under the roof of one channel. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So when you guys are seeing market updates coming from people who aren't just me on the channel, what's going on there. If you guys are really nice, then we might actually be able to convince some of these folks to actually provide some more content and talk specifically about what it's like living in their market. So when you see these videos pop up, make sure to jump over there, give them plenty of likes, plenty of love, give them lots of comments. And just know that that's fulfilling kind of the mission we still have on the YouTube channel to help you build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate, whether that be in South Central Alaska or anywhere else in Alaska that we have our colleagues in at the moment. So just want to make you aware of that, and let's go on and finish today's video. The third thing I really want you to understand is the market that your neighbor's home sold in is not the same market that you are selling your house in. So everybody knows someone who sold their property and it was like $40,000 over asking price and all these crazy terms. That's probably not the market that you're going to be jumping into. That's probably not going to be your experience. There's a very small window of time in which that was happening, and unless the interest rates suddenly drop really low, which they're talking about it, but every time I talk about the interest rates, they usually just go do the exact opposite of whatever it is I was hearing. So take that with a big grain of salt. But if the interest rates do suddenly drop down, you might start seeing some of that again. But really what drove the prices up before is there was just such a white-hot demand. And there wasn't a whole lot of inventory, not a whole lot of options. And while that still might be the case, there is demand, there's low options. It's not to the same extent that we had before. So while we might have good interest rates, it's still not going to be quite the demand we had before, where people are going all bid $10,000 over asking price because I've got 4 or 5 other people I have to compete with. And if it doesn't appraise for that much, I'll shovel over an additional $5,000 to try to make up the difference. That's the kind of stuff that was happening before. And it got way crazier than that. And that's what drove up your neighbor's price more so than anything else. It's not necessarily, the price of going, okay, well, it's for sure worth this. It's more about the demand that there was for that house. And while I'm not seeing a sliding back of value for homes in your neighborhood, I'm certainly not expecting you to have the same experience that your neighbor did, because the environment that you're stepping into is just completely different. And, honestly, there's going to be some good pros and cons either way there. It's not a great thing for the market long term for it to be like that, because, it creates all sorts of problems long term. Be great if you were in that market now. That's really not where right at the moment. Let's go and take a break real quick. If you've been watching for a while, you do know that I have some colleagues across the entire state I'm collaborating with in a project called the Trailblazer Project, in which we have market updates from real estate agents all the way across the state, from Fairbanks, Kenai, Homer, Juneau, Kodiak, all the big markets really across the entire state of Alaska. So if you are considering moving to or from one of those areas, do make sure that you catch those market updates and you just kind of know what's going on in those areas. Now, further ado, let's go and finish up today's video talking about the things you need to be aware of as you're going into 2023. This is big. And this next point is big, and it's something that no one really wants to hear, no one really wants to say, but it is that we need to price aggressively. Now, that's not to say that we go put everything on some kind of big fire sale and make it sound like the world's falling apart, but we do need to make sure that we're not playing the wait and see game. Okay, that wait and see game has a pretty predictable end, and it's where you've been sitting on the market for a month, no activity. And where we could have gotten $450 before, you started at $480, and still no one's biting. And by the price we have to come down to get people's attention again is going to be like $440. So you actually ended up losing money by starting too high and then staying there for too long. So pricing aggressively right from the get-go is going to put you in the best position to negotiate. And ultimately, that's what's going to get you your best bottom dollar amount when it's all said and done. Additionally, the staging and condition of your property is going to become important again. The past couple of years, people have gotten a little lax on that. It wasn't as necessary because there was just so much demand for the properties that you could just put something on there, any old house, and it was going to sell, and you were probably going to be getting above asking price on it and all this other crazy stuff. You're going to have to start competing now, because you have fewer buyers and they have the chance to kind of slow down and start, comparing apples to apples a little bit more. And you want to make sure that you really do stand out. You win the beauty contest and the pricing with everyone else who is trying to sell their properties as well. Because unlike the past couple of years, you're going to have to compete now. You've got competitors across the city in different areas, and you're going to have to compete with them. And the best way for you to do that is make sure that your property is immaculate, it's in great condition, and we've got our staging on point. Last but not least, I would say the last piece of advice I would give you is we need to really focus on studying the data and not the headlines, and focus on the stuff that you can actually control. Because if you are fixated on all the headlines and so-and-so just got into office, so-and-so said this, how's this election going to affect this? Oh, the stock market's doing this. I theorize that's going to do this. It's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a bad thing. You can really analyze yourself into the ground. And at the end of the day, it's not going to help you do what it is you need to do. So focus on the stuff you actually control, such as the condition, the staging, the timing, the price, and everything else that we're going to be giving you to do, and make sure we are executing that stuff to the nine. We want to make sure we are really on top of all of that, and that is the stuff you can control. So I sure hope this has been useful. 2023 is going to be another great year. And if you're looking at buying or selling, we're looking forward to helping you. Just make sure that you kind of keep all this stuff in mind and that you're not one of the people that finds out the stuff on this list the hard way.